The Grand Army of the Republic was massive, containing innumerable subdivisions, many of which were notable for various reasons. We've talked extensively about some of the most well-known clone units in the past, such as the 501st Legion, the 212th Attack Battalion, and so on. But today, we're going to be doing something a little different. In this video, we're going to be giving some attention to all of the less remarkable named clone units from both Legends and Canon, from large corps to small special forces units.
Attention, Sergeant on deck!
Before we begin, we should first establish that this isn't an exhaustive list of all clone units. We won't be covering any unit that we've already given a video, as well as any subdivisions of said units. The 332nd Division, for example, was a part of the 501st Legion, so it won't be discussed. In addition, we're only going to be discussing units that have both a name and something worth talking about, which rules out unidentified units and units that were named but never discussed in any detail. With all that out of the way, let's begin, starting with the largest units. First off, we have two lesser known corps, the 416th Star Corps and the 87th Sentinel Corps. The 416th was commanded by Jedi Master Crook early in the Clone Wars, and it had the distinction of being one of the first clone units to ever see action. One of its officers, Regimental Commander CRC-09/571, served under Yoda himself on Geonosis, in which the rest of the 416th presumably participated. This veteran unit didn't last all that long, however. Just 3 months after Geonosis, the 416th was massacred in the Battle of Tyre, in which it suffered casualties so staggeringly high that Crook deserted the Grand Army and considered leaving the Jedi Order to escape the war. Next up is the 87th Sentinel Corps, one of a few clone units that's only known for its appearance in EA's Star Wars Battlefront 2. Members of the Sentinel Corps wore armor with maroon markings and specialized in urban warfare, skills they employed in a battle on Naboo during the later stages of the war. The pattern of their armor stripes was very similar to that of another Battlefront exclusive unit, the 181st Armored Division, which wore green striped armor and fought in the Battle of Kashyyyk. They specialized in vehicle-heavy assaults in hostile environments, often making use of Juggernaut tanks and AT-RTs in combat. Scaling down a little, we have two legions to discuss. The first is the 187th Legion, which you might know as Mace Windu's elite unit. These clones had purple stripes on their armor in a pattern similar to that of the Coruscant Guard in honor of Windu's purple blade. These guys fought with Windu in the Battle of Dantooine early in the war and in the Battle of Coruscant near its end. In the latter engagement, the 187th fought to protect the Jedi Temple. These guys have the interesting quirk of being part of both Legends and Canon, despite only ever having appeared as toys. In Legends, they were brought into the continuity by promotional material for Hasbro action figures, while in Canon, they were brought into the continuity by LEGO, which released a set based on the 187th a few years back. Next up, we have the 182nd Legion, which has the dubious distinction of being known primarily for getting slaughtered. These guys had red armor markings, and their first known appearance was in a mission to Belgoroth early in the war, in which they lost all but one of the men deployed to the planet. The rest of the unit met with a similar fate during the Outer Rim sieges, when the entire 182nd Legion was wiped out in the early stages of the Battle of Felucia, caught between the droid army and hordes of starved Acklays. Now let's talk about some of the smaller units, the Battalions and Companies, starting with the 13th Battalion. These guys wore armor with mustard yellow paint stripes, a color scheme they shared with a separate unit, implying that the pattern was shared across a larger division. If these clones look familiar, that's because they served under Jedi Master Jaro Tapal, the Master of Cal Kestis from Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor. After a heated battle on Braca, these clones attempted to kill Tapal and Kestis after the execution of Order 66 aboard the Star Destroyer Albedo Brave. The wounded Master Tapal destroyed the Star Destroyer to cover Kestis' escape, wiping out the 13th Battalion entirely. The 442nd Siege Battalion was a unit that specialized in, you guessed it, sieges. They wore armor with line markings and preferred to move quickly and efficiently, favoring AT-RTs and ISPs for armored support. They fought in the Battle of Cato Nemoidia during the final stages of the Clone Wars, but little else is known about them. A similar, lesser-known unit is the 187th Battalion, a unit of clones that served under Mace Windu. These guys were separate from the 187th Legion and wore armor with maroon stripes. Their specialities are entirely unknown, but they fought in the Battle of Anaxis late in the war. Our last lesser-known small unit is Horn Company, which was briefly seen in Star Wars The Clone Wars. They wore armor with bright lime stripes and served under Jedi Master Eth Koth, acting as security aboard his flagship, the Star Destroyer Steadfast. Little is known about them, but they've got a cool armor pattern, so we determined that made them worth a mention. The company was led by Captain CC-4142, nicknamed Locke, and it suffered heavy casualties when the Steadfast was boarded by General Grievous in 21 BBY. More than half of the company was slaughtered by Grievous's commando droids, and the rest were ordered to abandon ship by General Koth. They never appeared again. There were a few lesser-known clone units with special duties, acting as special forces or in specific niche combat roles, and we've saved those for last. The first of these was Rancor Battalion, a unit of elite clones assigned to defend Kamino in 21 BBY. This battalion was commanded by ARC troopers, with ARC commanders Blitz and Havoc as staff officers and Commander Colt as their CO. Much of the unit was composed of specially trained ARF troopers, and by and large, the Rancor Battalion was considered one of the most well-trained units in the GAR. Nonetheless, they sustained heavy casualties in the Battle of Kamino, including Commander Colt, who was killed by Asajj Ventress. The 44th Special Operations Division was another elite unit, and it had the misfortune of being commanded by Kendall Ozzel, the future Imperial Admiral that you might know for flubbing the beginning of the Battle of Hoth and being killed for it by Darth Vader. Most of what we know about the 44th comes from a single subdivision of it, the Devil Dogs, a team of elite clones known for blowing stuff up wherever they went. Led by Captain Sharp, these guys fought in the Battle of Korm, which they played a major role in winning for the Republic, albeit at the cost of the lives of Captain Sharp and many of his men. Possibly the worst unit of the entire GAR to serve in was the Lancer Battalion, which we've mentioned before but is silly enough to merit further mention here. The Lancer Battalion was a unit of clone troopers trained for a single purpose: to participate in jousts on the battlefield. Riding Aratech 105K Lancer bikes and carrying Verpine Power Lancers, their job was usually to distract the enemy by charging in and turning anything that got in their way into a shish kebab. The casualty rate for the Lancer Battalion was quite high, as you might expect for a battalion that didn't use guns, and their only known appearance was in the Battle of Munalinst, in which they participated in an actual joust against Dirge's Lancer droids under the command of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Kenobi and Dirge were the only known survivors of the clash, so the Lancer Battalion may actually have been wiped out on Munalinst. Lastly, we have 5th Fleet Security, a unit of clone troopers that served exclusively aboard ships of the Republic Navy, acting as Marines in the case of boarding actions. These guys had mostly plain white armor with only a few thin blue stripes to distinguish them from ordinary clones, and their role was pretty much exactly what you would guess from the name. It's unknown what unit in the Republic Navy 5th Fleet Security was attached to, unless it was the 5th Fleet, of course, if there even was a 5th Fleet, and it's unknown what battles they participated in. Nonetheless, it's interesting that the GAR assigned units to defend the Republic's warships, as opposed to the Navy having its own security branch. So that's our look at a bunch of obscure clone units that you've probably never heard of. But what do you think? Which of these units did you find the most interesting? Let us know that and more in the comment section below, and as always guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.